Yo, Nicole.
Hey, Rolando.
If you could get transported to a magical college, what magical college would it be? College.
Damn, Hogwarts is out.
Hogwarts is out.
I don't think I know of any other magical college, nor would I want to attend any other magical college.
Why would you not want to attend them? There was no magical college in Hogwarts, and after Hogwarts.
No, they just entered the workforce.
Yeah, they went to. Yeah.
What? That's not realistic at all. Okay, well.
They're wizards. They're not regular. They're not like nomads. So they're not
so
muggles.
There's no higher education for witchcraft or wizardry.
I mean, you could take on your own. You could take on your own independent studies.
Oh, okay. What about you, Eddie? Is there a magical college you will want to go to?
Break Bills.
Yes, I kind of figured you would go Break
Go to Break Bills.
What's
but
that?
Which is the novel version, because in the sci-fi show, it's a graduate school.
Break Bills belongs to a series of novels known as the Magician series.
Ah, yes, I've heard.
It was also a sci-fi show.
What about you, though, Rolando?
Well, I would probably pick Break Bills as well. However, after watching these two colleges, I would have to say still Break Bills.
Yeah. Nice setup.
But really, at the end of the day, you'd rather go to Revenge School.
Oh, no, yeah. I would rather, Revenge School would be the college I go to. And if you don't know what Revenge School is, you've never seen Revenge. It's a real thing. She goes to Revenge School, and it's like
that's
a plot
fantastic.
point. So that's the school that I would go to. But no, today we are talking about Winx Club and Fate, a Winx Saga, which is somehow inexplicably Netflix's #1 show globally for, I think, the last week and a half, maybe 2 weeks.
Yep.
Do you have an explanation for this, Nicole?
So I thought it would be a good idea, and I would just like to apologize, Rolando and Eddie, and to myself for thinking that this would be a good idea.
Well, we're going to see if we're going to forgive you. I'm Rolando.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals.
An original podcast
about
unoriginality. So again, I apologize. How much of this did you watch? The original Winx Club cartoon and then the Netflix one?
So I didn't see the entire first season. I saw a good chunk of the first season. And,
of Netflix?
No, of the original run. It was available on this weird channel on Roku. I searched for Winx Club, and the first 5 seasons were available on this weird like app for kids and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was commercial free, and I was just like, heaven. And then
Nice.
that's when I was upstairs at the apartment. If I was here in my office, if I had it on in the background, hopefully my coworkers aren't listening. It was on YouTube, because YouTube has remastered versions that fans have edited and kind of cleaned up.
Yes.
And I was watching
and
those.
that's where I watched it too. I didn't watch that many of the original. I think I watched about the same amount. For both the Netflix and the original, which is 3.5.
Wow. No, I saw in total probably 18 episodes of
Wow.
Winx
Okay,
Club.
so I guess you liked it then.
No, God no. It was just on.
Then
in the
why
background
did you
or something.
watch 18 episodes?
I wanted to really dive into what is the appeal of this show, you know?
Okay.
I just didn't.
And you did that. Good
I
for
did.
you.
Well, I kind of have a more baseline understanding, especially after speaking with Ella Anders. She is a fan, one of the biggest fans for Winx, runs a fan website, does fan fiction even. She's all in, right? And you guys will actually listen to this interview after this episode. I'm excited to share it. We had a one-on-one conversation about what Winx means to regular people, non-media people, right?
Yes. Because Rolando and I are also we
curious.
went to film school, which is how we met and stuff. So every time we look at these properties, we can't help but analyze it. We were taught it.
Right. Precisely. And sometimes you had to take off that
100%
lens and stuff and kind of sit back and enjoy property, which is what I tried to do when I was watching those original episodes, because you also have to put yourself into the mindset of the target audience, which is a tween. And I think the argument could be made that if any one of us three could relate most to a tween, it would probably be me. I feel like that's true. Agree or disagree?
I'll just leave that alone for now.
Okay.
But yeah.
No, but yeah, I feel like I do have the sensibilities of a teenage girl. So
well, all right. Well, so we talk a little bit about what Winx is, because maybe our audiences isn't as familiar. Like, I actually did not really know that this was a property until Netflix had the trailer out, and I was like, what is this? This is a reboot. So this is all very new to me, and it might be new to you, dear listener. So may we shed some enlightenment on you as to what this property is. So Winx Club is a cartoon that actually is an Italian cartoon. It was created by Ennio Straffi. He created it in the early 2000s, around 2004. And he created it because he saw that there were a lot of action cartoons, at least in Europe, where all of the characters were male heroes. And he was like, I don't see any where there's female heroes, which is great that this guy was like, let's make shows for female heroes. He saw, like a space in the market, and he went for it.
I can't believe that there wasn't Buffy the Vampire Slayer in Europe.
That's true. Well, it wasn't a cartoon, though.
That's true. Was there a Buffy the Vampire Slayer cartoon? No.
Yes.
There was?
Yes.
There was, yeah. I could have sworn there was.
They had a couple episodes.
Well, yeah. I guess, again, he's in Italy, so I don't know if Buffy the Vampire Slayer cartoons were playing over there.
Maybe.
Also, were those
Buffy
for children?
To the Italians.
Maybe, yeah. Buffet. But yeah, so it premiered on the Italian television channel, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, but I'm just going to say RAI.
That sounds right. I think that's how Ella pronounced it also.
Okay, cool. And it was very successful to the point where after about 4 seasons over there, Nickelodeon saw its potential, and it it collaborated with Rainbow, which is a Viacom CBS affiliate, and they revived it, and then they brought it into the American market. So Nickelodeon started making new episodes from season 5 to 8. And that's how Winx was introduced to an American audience. And
actually, that's okay. So actually, no, that's not true.
So tell me, tell me.
So actually, it was Winx was introduced into America in 2004 as well. I think specifically it premiered in January in Italy, and by September it was here in America. Channel? It was network. It was broadcast TV.
I see.
Yeah, so they brought it here to the States, and it would just be like, so it was syndicated basically, right? And that doesn't mean if we saw it on channel, for example, Fox 5. All right, I think in our market it was probably CW, but that doesn't mean exclusively that it was not going to be. It wasn't exclusive to like that network, for example, right? It was just whatever market bought it and would air it in their children's programming, because there were children's programming blocks when we were growing up.
Okay, so it didn't really have like an American owner,
right?
Per se, like a set
it just
distributor.
Had a distributor, exactly. And it picked up popularity and stuff, enough popularity that like Nickelodeon kind of was just like interesting, and there was even a movie apparently.
Yeah, well, I know that there were at least 4 movies, maybe like TV movies and stuff, but there's The Secret of the Lost Kingdom, Magical Adventure, and The Mystery of the Abyss. So from what I read, that SpongeBob and Winx Club are 2 of the longest airing properties on Nickelodeon. Like, I think they're still airing, and I think SpongeBob came out slightly before Winx Club did. Nickelodeon, of course, didn't start exclusively playing Winx Club till 2009, but still, I mean, we're in 2021. That's a long running show.
Is it still running on Nickelodeon?
I'm sure that there's somewhat of at least reruns and whatnot. So.
Oh, maybe reruns.
I know that the last season, there was a long hiatus, and then they came back at season 8 in 2019, which is very recent.
Right, which is, as according to the fan, that is a season that no one talks about.
Yes, so I didn't watch that far though. So
no, neither did I.
So
she was explaining to me,
I'm glad nobody talks about it.
She was telling me why it's so detested and stuff, and I was just like, wow. Apparently they kept regressing in age.
That's interesting. They got younger and younger, even though they're college students.
So they start off as college students, and then because of magic, they end up getting younger and younger because the changing markets for TV. I guess so. Like I guess tweens aren't watching as much TV as they used to.
That's actually a good thing. That makes me happy to hear.
It depends on what they're doing, because if you watch a show like Euphoria, I'm led to believe that they're all having orgies and doing drugs. So what is good?
Well, okay. I don't know if I want to get my impression of what kids are doing from a show called Euphoria, but I digress. What is Winx Club about, right? So Winx Club is a cartoon that followed the main character of Bloom and her 5 friends, Stella, Flora, Musa, Tecna, and Aisha. And they all studied at Alfea College for Fairies. And they live in the world of Magix with an X, I believe.
Correct. That's correct.
And they are fairies, and they all have different fairy powers, right? So Bloom, she's the fairy of the dragon flame. Stella is the fairy of the shining sun. Flora is the fairy of nature. Musa is the fairy of music from the planet of melody, which is nice. Tecna is the fairy of technology, and Aisha is the fairy of waves, which is music.
Right.
So they all control different elements, and it's interesting because I more so got this impression from the Netflix one, but like I think Winx Club is very much similar to the fact that Harry Potter was widely successful in the late 90s, early 2000s. You can definitely see somewhat of an influence, at least in the Netflix one. But I think that kids were really, really interested in fantastical things around this time period. So they really rode that wavelength. I will definitely be talking more about that when we talk about Netflix.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with you in terms of like the Harry Potter influence on that one, but okay.
Well, I just think that it was an easy market for children because they were becoming really interested in, like fantasy worlds and like having these powers that were like that you could control elements or whatnot, which is also actually really similar to another Nickelodeon show, Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Right. Yeah.
Relationship to the elements and whatnot, the 4 elements.
Yeah.
So
I think in terms with Winx, it's also, I think the other main thing that we should think about though is pop culture at the time, and like this show came out like not that long after the Bratz dolls, and if I had to say what was a more major influence on the development of the show and the popularity of it, is probably the merchandising around these dolls, because the truth is that these dolls look more like Bratz dolls than they
that's
do.
the design for sure,
right? But I think that also gave it that appeal. So I think it's a blend of, I don't think the magic had anything to do with it. I think it had to do with the action and like the scantily clad outfits that really appealed to girls. It's just like, I can look sexy and I can kick ass, which is, I think, also what attributes to the popularity of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I suppose so, yeah. Well, the design of these characters is so early 2000s. All of them have crop tops, essentially.
Yes.
And, like, little skirts. And they look like some of them look like they go to Catholic school.
They look like they're backup dancers for Britney Spears.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah.
And they all are very, they're pretty easily distinguishable because they all either have a different skin tone, or if they don't, they have different hair colors. Like,
right.
Bloom is a redhead. Stella's a blonde. Aisha is black. Musa is Asian. Flora is Latina. Apparently, she was designed after Jennifer Lopez.
Oh, was she? Yeah. So we can't say that they're Asian or black, right? They're coded that way, but like keep in mind, they're supposed to be a magical realm that they're in. So like,
so race doesn't exist there,
right? It's one of those weird things where like it's not. You can't say that they're Asian. You can say they're Asian influence of designs, sure, but like
yes. So Musa's inspiration was Lucy Liu.
Right,
and
exactly.
Flora's inspiration was Jennifer Lopez.
Correct.
So,
but like,
so they were influenced as such.
Yeah, because like,
but as a freaking human being looking at it, of course you're going to identify like, oh, that's a Latina character.
Of course,
even though I can't say it.
Right, but I think even the creator had said that, right? He just wanted to create a cast of characters that like all girls can see a little bit of themselves in, despite the fact that they're all
like diversity, a spectrum of diversity.
Correct.
Of young women.
Diversity in just the skin tone, not in body type.
Oh yeah, they all have the same body type.
They all are like these waif-like models.
That's true. Yes.
And keep in mind, it's Italy, and I don't know how close he is to Milan, but like, I can only imagine like if you're working in Milan and you have all these fashion models just walking around all the time, like
that's true. And I don't really know if obesity is a problem over there. Like it is over here, and that also I don't know how much being overweight is normalized over there as it is over here, because America's proud of being like your average Joe, and they applaud. America's more okay with you being overweight than I think other countries are.
Let's think so? That. I don't know. The shame around being overweight is pretty high here. So if this is what okay is, God, I want to know what it's like in the place. That
It is.
Like not
I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but like people, I think that the fact that we are a country that's, very prides ourselves on like average Joe, right? Like that falls into it. You don't have to have the perfect body type. You should be more so average. Like that's the American ideal.
We really consume different media because I think America is.
Well, you were a gay
opposite.
Man, so of course.
That's also true. Which is interesting. I don't know. Like, yeah, all right, fine.
I guess. Well, this is my opinion on this is that even though Americans do have the highest rate of obesity above all the countries, we do have it as it's more normalized in the sense of that we see it, but there is that level of discrimination and shame that gets implemented, even though this is something that a lot of people are dealing with. Yeah. Now, I've been to Italy several times, and no expert here at all, but they do tend to be more of a slimmer population.
Yeah.
Over there as a Europeans, period. And one of the factors too is that a lot of it when you go to a lot of these countries, I mean now you see it more, but there's less fast food in your face.
It's true. Yeah. It's less processed and refined sugars and carbs.
Compared to us, and our metropolitan areas are just full of fast food, and fast food is as it is here, it's cheaper for people, especially people who are poor, low-income people, to access food.
Yeah,
for sure.
Usually not as nutritious.
So you guys are all excusing the fact that these girls are basically model-esque.
Oh, I'm not excusing it as much as, I guess, more so that I think that's more of an American agenda,
but
if I should say.
If the show was picked up basically by Nickelodeon, right, and they're kind of become like one of the main producers and stuff, shouldn't they address that?
100% they should.
I'm just saying, it's just like it's something that caught me for sure, because I did have a very low opinion of this show. I was aware of it, I never seen it and stuff, and you know why I never saw it? This was my male gaze upon it, but I basically just thought it's just like, oh my god, this show is just teaching girls to be like little like hoe bags, basically, right? And I was just basing that on what I saw. When I watched the show, I will say this, it's just like, you know what? I take back my initial thoughts. As a man, this show is actually kind of teaching girls it's okay to be empowered. It's okay to ask a boy out. You know what I mean? It's okay to not. They were giving permission for young girls to be quote unquote dominant, right? Instead of being like subordinates and stuff. And I to some level I can say it's just like, you know what? Respect. I respect that.
For sure. And another thing that is really nice from the original show is the power of female friendships, They are a club. They're a club of 6 girls, and they do everything together. They're very close, and they're very understanding of each other for the most part. Even in as early as episode 1, when, Bloom doesn't know in episode 1 that she's a fairy, and she comes across Stella, who's combating this evil dude in the woods, and immediately Stella's embracing of her and who she is,
which made no sense because it's just like, you see they're using magic, right, girl? Like, why are you getting involved? But surprise, guys, she has magic herself.
Surprise. Yeah, we find that out in like the first 8 minutes. So but so from what I saw, at least, Rolando, you saw a little bit more than me. It did seem like these girls were so warm and so loving towards each other, and that female friendship was definitely a big focus of it.
Right.
Which there's not that many shows, I don't think, at least for that demographic, for that time period that existed.
Yeah, the only show that comes to mind around this time period that was like female centric focus was Kim Possible, right? But that one wasn't about friendship. That was about a platonic. That was almost a platonic friendship. But at the end, it ends up into romance. So not a good example, but yeah, I guess. So the main struggle is here for the first season, or I was able to, from watching, was there is Alfea, which is this college for fairies, and their competitors is the Ice Tower, I think it was called, and it's a school for witches, right?
Okay.
And the witches are almost very, they're like, they got beef with the fairies. And part of the beef is that they want to steal Stella's ring, which they believe has that dragon flame, but then it turns out that our girl Bloom is the one who is a dragon flame, right? And that's where a lot of the conflict comes. And I will say this about the show: like the show did try to have like these story arcs, right? Which is not common, or at least it wasn't common then for kids programming.
Yeah. It wasn't merely episodic. It did continue from
like they were,
episode.
They were episodic episodes, but like they had an overall, still a plot overall. Yeah. And the plots, the first 3 seasons will revolve around Bloom and like her discovery of like who her real parents are. I think she herself, I was told she ends up becoming a royal, for example. And same thing with everyone. So it's just like everyone's just struggling, and it turns out that the girls also end up graduating, and there's episodes that deal with these girls like after college, like trying to figure out what it means to be an adult, before they start regressing in age, because Nickelodeon is trying to target younger audiences, right? So it's just these interesting things, and it's a weird, fascinating world. I found myself like very much I'm not the target demo here, right? But I found myself saying, just like, oh, this isn't terrible. This isn't bad. This isn't bad in the sense of how I thought it was going to be bad for young girls.
Yeah, me too.
Right? You know what I mean? Like that's basically that's what it is. And do all the girls heterosexual? Sure, but this was also early 2000s, right? Like,
and
introducing queer characters to people wasn't something we were doing just yet.
And not yet. Are we segueing?
Oh, that's up to you. I mean, you tell me.
No, I was going to say, because the not yet sounded like a nice segue.
Then let's segue.
Let's segue to 2021, what is currently, as of early February 2021, the #1 most watched on Netflix. What I would argue is, like I said, Harry Potter plus Avatar multiplied by Riverdale. The Winx Saga.
I mean, for me, I see less Harry Potter and much more.
Oh, come on. She's the chosen one. She is Harry Potter. She's like, wasn't born into this world, comes in, and yet everything revolves around her.
Yeah, but isn't that like, that's like such a common trope? It's not just Harry Potter.
It is such a common trope.
That is the problem. And
and
then I think it's so funny because they introduce this common trope, but they don't give us the important element of this trope. Which is for me, usually this character, because it's not usually the character not being part of this world. This is a character that introduces the audience to the world. So by that character figuring things out or discovering or being in awe, we are discovering and being in awe and figuring things out with the character. Okay. And right offhand, this is my biggest problem. Bloom does not do this. The character does not do this. She is the most self-involved character I've ever seen.
Yeah, she's so
that's supposed to be the
selfish.
Main star of the show, and this is supposed to be college, and she's acting this way.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so
16 years old though.
You both are coming in super hot right now.
Oh yeah,
we haven't even given
so
any
much
back. Let's take a step back before we get into this here, because I think you guys are both battling your criticisms here. But Fate, a Winx Saga, it comes out earlier this year, like a couple of weeks ago at this point, right?
Just like a week or two ago.
Jeez, okay. And like you mentioned, it is like the #1 watched globally, no less, a streamed show that they have. What is this show about, Nicole? If you had to like summarize it from what you saw.
Oof. Okay, yeah, I would say that Bloom, who is unaware of her powers as a fairy, is thrown into the world of Alfea, and her, along with her dorm mates, I guess, her dorm buddies, try to learn more about themselves while also uncovering this darkness that surrounds Alfea with the burned ones.
Okay, yeah,
and stuff.
Okay, so that's a basic premise.
That is your basic premise, yeah.
Then you have to wonder, it's just like, all right, tonality wise, right? Like this show is what demographic would you say this show is being targeted to?
Gee, whatever the demographics the CW has is exactly what this demographic is.
Interesting. Despite the fact that it's rated TVMA.
Yes, okay. Despite that fact. Well, I mean, Netflix, knows its audience.
Eddie, what do you think?
I definitely think this is for young teenagers.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You keep saying the CW, and I agree with you, right? Like, this show does have CW vibes. Actually, it has.
Well, I would say that one of they got a lot of writers from shows like Vampire Diaries and whatnot to work on this show.
Makes sense, right? So that's the show that I would say, if anything influenced the creation of the show, I would say not the Vampire Diaries. Is there other show that someone here watches?
The Legacy.
Thank you. Legacies. Okay. Legacies, which is a show about. Eddie, what is this show about? I've seen it in the background. But...
So interesting. So it is a spin-off from that whole Vampire Diaries universe, the originals, and now the Legacies, and it is a school. It is a very prestigious school. It ranges from elementary to high school.
Oh, okay.
And the whole idea is it is a school and a safe haven where young vampires, witches, and werewolves can go and train to use their abilities, and also kind of recognize that basically that they're not evil. Mm-hmm. They don't have to do evil things. They can learn to live and be a part of the mortal world.
Right.
Or at least very much protect the world that they're part of, which is the world of magic and vampires and werewolves.
Right. So this is where I don't think Harry Potter had much influence on this as much as...
You're crazy.
I don't, because there's a grandiosity to Harry Potter's world building that this show just completely was just like, we don't need it. We're going to go the legacy route. We're going to go this route. It's kind of much more superficial. And also,
minus the grandiosity, take the basic plot.
But I would say more. The other thing I would say is more closely related to is Game of Thrones. They're trying to give you this political intrigue that I don't care about, right? I would say this is like,
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Because I mean, there is the tone. There is a slight tone of the Harry Potter world, through the idea of Bloom. Bloom, all of a sudden, is now like recognizing like, hey, she's a fairy, and she's always been a fairy, and now she enters she doesn't go to a magical school on Earth. She actually goes to another world, which is referred to as the other world, which is supposed to be like just like assuming another planet,
realm, yeah,
but like
dimension,
and it's like another world. So she doesn't even go to school on Earth. She goes to school in this other world, and there in the other world is divided into 3 realms, run very differently from what she would understand as her everyday world, Earth, which is referred to, I think, as sometimes as
the first
world,
something like that.
Yeah,
the first world.
They're really creative with their names here, like James Cameron and Unobtainium.
Seriously,
I don't mind it being simple like that or vague like that, but if you're gonna call it Otherworld, right? Why does your phone work in Otherworld? Who's the carrier? It's not Sprint. That's your carrier in the other world.
Yeah, right?
How do you have cars?
Yeah.
Also, why is... Well, they call it Insta, but Instagram is so popular in Otherworld, and we communicate.
They're just basic teenagers.
Yeah, and it's I guess moments. One of the things that I struggle with is those things, the phone and the car and Instagram, kind of take me out of it being a magical world.
Right.
Okay.
No, I agree with you.
You see. When I watched The Magicians, and the Magicians went to the magical world of Fillory, right? There was, you felt like you were in a magical realm, too. And when technology did work there, I mean, there was a joke about it, or there was an appreciation about it, that it did work in such conditions. But here, it's because it's such a common place, or everybody's doing it, or we take our selfies in our magical world, it takes me out of that. And it asks me, well, then just make this school on Earth. Just make it on Earth. This is a fairy school that happens to be somewhere, probably in New Zealand.
Right.
or in Ireland, hidden.
Or in England. Oh, well, then they would have been too close to Harry Potter.
Because everybody else has an English accent there, too.
Then I would have been, it's just like, oh, okay, they're just trying to be Harry Potter. But
yeah, well, it's just one of the many qualities of how the show was kind of phoned in. But it's interesting because
is a great word, yeah.
Yeah, it was very phoned in. There's actually, I learned something, and I don't know if you guys know this, but do you guys know what a Mary Sue is?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, we know what a Mary Sue is.
So for our readers, if you don't know what a Mary Sue is a fictional character who's usually a woman, and she is portrayed as unrealistically free of weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And she's also, I grabbed this from an article from Variety that I really liked. Their summing up of a Mary Sue, a seemingly perfect character who somehow has connections to everyone and is inevitably the key to everything.
Yeah.
And it's usually the author's self-assertion or whatever. So that is Bloom to a T, right? Except Bloom is angsty. She's selfish in a very aggressive way. She almost immediately disobeys rules and she doesn't like other people, or at least can't really vibe with them. And she thinks that her problems are the worst, oh my God, I can't believe I burned my mom even though she's still alive and her burns are barely visible on her body. I'm so terrible. You don't understand my pain. It's just she's that's traumatic, but still.
That is a pretty traumatic thing. I think it's stupidly executed. But
I think it's really stupid.
I think that, and the other, just to add to what you're saying, is not only that she's self-involved, but then it's like, you are it almost seems that she's this odd piece in the puzzle that's been forced to fit, because then all her character, she's so self-involved, but then it's like her sweet buddy, her roommates are like, hey, she's like such a great friend, she's so good, and all this stuff. At the same time, it's like, Aisha got her shit going, she's dealing with shit, or Musa is also dealing, it's like Tara, Stella, they got all this shit going on that they're dealing with, and Bloom never takes the time and says, hey, how are things with you?
Well,
what's going on with you?
Yeah, and
what's happening? And also, she's acts super entitled because just because she asks a question doesn't mean that she deserves an answer.
No, for sure. The way she's all up in the headmistress's face, demanding to know
exactly.
shit. It's like, who do you think you are?
So I think this ultimately derives to be a problem, Joe, from the lack of understanding how to write an ensemble cast, right?
For sure.
Ultimately,
there's only 3 teachers. There's not that much.
No, but the cast is obviously the Winx Club, right? When you look at the Winx Club, right, and this is the stark difference. As I usually do, I saw them in reverse order. So I was ready for a very vapid cartoon. It turns out to be a cartoon where it's these girls who are real friends and stuff, and they form this bond, and they're also warriors for some reason. I forgot to ask Ella, why are they warriors? But
true.
But here it's just the sole focus is on Bloom and all of her stuff. And as you guys have both pointed out, she's a very flawed character, and not flawed in the way that makes us human, but flawed in the way that makes us hate people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like,
and it's continue.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's not like I haven't seen this character before. I've seen this character before as a man, and it's just, unfortunately, it's so frustrating, when you get it in a female-driven character, and it's like, oh my God, I want a female-driven show. I want to like this character so much, and I'm almost more unforgiving when it's coming from this place of this woman, because she's just so unlikable, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's
I can't even hear myself. I do want to talk about the other characters, because I actually think that Bloom and all of these qualities that she's displayed take away from the progress of some of the other characters, of at least their storylines, right?
Sure.
So Bloom is put into a dorm with 4 other girls. One of them is Stella, who is a princess, and in complete contrast to at least at the first episode of the Winx Club, she's just like an entitled bitch, right?
Oh yeah, complete.
That's
just
how you
the
would
series. Yeah,
sum her up. Yeah. Then there's Aisha, who unfortunately is also in this Netflix adaptation the only person of color, and she is a swimmer, and her fairy powers are water, and that's all I know about her.
Yeah,
literally,
she loves to
the rest
swim
of
all
them
the
have
time.
side stories. Yeah, she like all she does is swim. She doesn't
swim.
even have like a boy that she's with, or she doesn't have like the troubles that this character, who is in place of Flora. Her name is Terra. She's the Earth Fairy. She's also an overweight. She's Flora's cousin that they mentioned.
Yeah.
Or sister?
No, cousin.
Cousin. And she's overweight. And then, so that's actually something that we didn't, as we mentioned, we didn't get in Winx Club that we got now that is actually kind of was needed. And I quite like Terra, even though she addresses her own tropiness and she's like, I'm not that character in the first episode. And she's honestly one of the more fleshed out ones.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree with you. I think Terra herself is a very fleshed out character. I do think it's kind of a disservice, though, in 2021 to make someone's like kind of being the butt of the jokes because she's overweight. It's just like, come on, it's not the 90s.
Seriously.
As a society,
it almost feels like it's too focused on.
Yeah, it's just like we're kind of past that. Like, you want to make fun of her? Let's make fun of her for her fashion sense. I think that's fair game. Yeah. Right? Like, you don't have to make fun of her weight and her insecurity be around her weight. Her insecurities could be just about her fashion sense. Her insecurity could be just about being a know-it-all, because she kind of sometimes was. You know what I mean? There's lots of other things we could like rip people apart on.
But where I don't remember her weight being a joke. I think her.
Oh my goodness, Riv attacked her constantly for that.
Being fat, yeah. And she also ripped herself for being fat. Like, that was the source of all her like insecurities.
Yeah, and there's moments where she looks in like the mirror and stuff. She can't change in front of the other girls.
Yeah, that's all stems from like her insecurities of being like around.
I saw those moments and I recognize them because I too have those moments. So.
Even as a guy, I have those moments. You know how much I hated changing in the locker room growing up? Forget it.
Yeah,
so I get it. But I get it. I understand that. I don't think that that's something that we should be projecting on anymore on like younger audiences anymore, because I feel like they have other shit to worry about. Like,
true. And in this day and age, we're more supportive of people who are struggling with their weight.
Right. Well, I guess.
All right, but did you finish it?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You finished the whole thing?
Yeah, I get it. She grew. She's the only character that actually had like an actual story arc.
Yeah, but I think we should focus on that because she does. I mean, she has that sense of independence. She does come out as the leader of the group.
Yes, I think that's fair.
Does come out of the leader group.
I guess what I'm just saying is just the weak writing comes from like the fact that like they just like kind of it was a crutch. It was a crutch. I'm not. It doesn't change her
early on,
arc.
at least for her character. Yeah,
like it doesn't change her character arc, and it doesn't weaken her compared to the rest of the characters that they have. She's the only one that kind of felt like a fully fleshed out character.
She did, yes, and I will say that there's also Musa, just to finish out the Winx Club. But I actually, I didn't finish it. But I was actually really upset with the character of Aisha, because I felt like, at least in the first 3 episodes that I saw, that literally all her character was doing there was looking at Bloom saying, I don't think that's a good idea. And then she just went along with whatever happened. It's like she's easily tokenized as being the only POC on the show. And then all she does is like say to the main character, she's like comes off as a buzzkill narc, who's like, oh, we shouldn't do that. That's not a good idea. And then like, that's it to your character. Okay, go swimming now.
Right.
It's just so frustrating because not only does the show feel phoned in, but it's also like not self-aware. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Do you not realize how this character is just there as wallpaper to this main character?
I mean,
so that was really frustrating.
Wallpaper to the main
character. Lot of characters were, and a lot of characters were given a little bit more focus than I would have liked to. Like, for instance, Riv.
Yeah, they did focus a lot on Riv and Dane. Riven
and Dane.
And Dane is just like that, and that story arc went nowhere. They dropped it.
It went nowhere.
It has an opportunity. It has potential.
No, there's no potential because
I disagree. I'm a disagree. I agree with
All right, go ahead.
I think it does have potential. It does plant the seed of what season 2 can be. I mean, to tell you the truth, the most interesting of characters are this threesome relationship between Beatrix, Dane, and Riven. Yeah. Okay? They all seem in their own ways kind of like misfits or people that just don't want to fit or don't know how to fit. So they take on... Well, Beatrix doesn't give a shit. Offhand, she's one of those people that doesn't seem to give a shit. But there's deeper issues there. There's definitely. And Riven is living in the shadows of his best friend, which he seems so frustrated because he seems like because of that, he can't like... be appreciated by who, you know, for who he is.
Yeah.
When your best friend is so perfect, you know, but then that's the only person that you have. I don't know. I see a lot of potential. I see also potential within Riven and Dane's relationship.
So my question here is just like but it's a squander potential that they didn't. So here's the thing. With Netflix or any network show, you can't guarantee you're going to get a second season, right? You can plant those seeds, but it's a risk. And I just feel like with Dane, it's just like, it's with Dane, like they kind of introduce, oh my God, he might be gay. Oh my God, he's like in this weird throuple thing going on here because he's so insecure. But oh my God, I kind of forgot where he is by the end of the series, the end of the first season. Riv, I know where he was, right? He was there. He was part of the calamity that was going on at the end of the episode with the specialists and stuff. But Dane, where was Dane, Eddie? Can you account for him by the end of the season?
Dane was by Beatrix's side when she was frozen because of the spell. He was trying to help her break the spell.
Yeah, why?
Because he loves her. He cares for her.
He cares for her. He cares for all the people. I don't know. I feel like Dane wasn't a very fleshed out character.
I feel like Dane is just the beginning of something.
Yeah, maybe. And Dane is also like an original character. So Dane is like the only character.
And he's also one of color.
He's one of color.
He's just not the only one. He's the one of color too.
Spectrum. Now, speaking of one of color, though, that was one of the big controversies for the show going into it, right? Like a lot of fans cried foul that there was only one person of color in the Winx cast.
You mean within the Fen group of Winx, the
within
girls.
the Fate? Yeah, I'm sorry, Fate in the Fate Winx girls, and that would be Aisha, despite the fact that Flora could have been Hispanic and
Musa could have been.
Although I think
Asian,
Musa is like she's like ethnically ambiguous. I feel like
she is. Yeah,
she could pass it like as anything.
Whatever. I'd like something a little bit more relatable than ambiguous.
And then you have that element too that all of them are part of this world except Bloom.
Yeah,
you know, they're all part of this world. This is their world. They're not anything but
fairies.
This world.
Yeah, which is fine. Like, I made that argument right from the get go. I just don't. I'm speaking on the fact that like this was called out by the actual fans of the show, right? So this irked the fandom and stuff. I agree with you, Eddie. Like on some level, it's just like this is like a magical world. Like there is like race doesn't exist, or at least shouldn't exist in the same way that we. But obviously, us as viewers, we can't separate that though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the honest truth. So yeah. And I guess the last thing I want to just harp on, though, is just the school is run by 3 fucking school teachers, and one is a headmistress, and she's also teaching classes. Well, how is
apparently
that?
Too, every time they have lunch or there's a party, these halls are filled, and yet when you're actually in a classroom, there's like just the 6 of them.
I didn't even notice
really
that, but that sounds true.
Yeah, it's just it's very kind of. You don't get a sense of actual school, you know? Like you said, like, where are all the teachers, where are the classes, and where are all the other students? Like, I don't know. And the reason why I say Harry Potter is because Harry Potter is one of the first, I'm not going to say the first, but one of the first to popularize the idea of seeing people with any type of power, whether it's magical powers or fairy powers or supernatural or whatever, attend school, right? It's idea of like kids in school with powers growing up and accepting themselves.
Okay.
Then you have the elements, right? From like the Avatar universe of some of them are fire fairies, some of them are water. I mean, come on, you totally thought about Avatar, especially when Aisha did
when Aisha did that, a couple of her moves were pretty good.
Yeah, and I will, right? I'll commend the show on that one. Like, what might be the only thing that I think I like is they actually had decent special effects. That kind of made me excited. Just like, oh, okay, if they bring some of these effects into Netflix's Avatar and don't whitewash that, I think you might be in good shape. But that's a big if, because I don't know.
But it was all
does not bode well.
At the end of the day too, just because it was like, oh yeah, like Harry Potter, they'll go to school, and yet we didn't really get a sense of how their classes worked or what the hell they were even learning. And you said that you wanted to say one last thing about this show. I would like to say one last thing too. And one of the most frustrating things about this show is the lack of friendship in this show. Just like, let's think about their relationships, at least in the first couple episodes. Now, I don't know how it ends because I didn't get that far, but let's talk about the first couple of episodes. We already talked about how selfish Bloom is and how much she kind of just like tells everyone to back off of her. Aisha, she's kind of overbearing. And she just, what kind of, other than just telling Bloom don't do that, you know, like, does she have a bond with some of the other girls? It's not like Bloom wants to hear what she has to say about her being a changeling.
I actually want to say that. Like, that's my one thing I have to do like about Aisha. She's so, talk about not knowing your audience, but she's just like, oh, girl, you changeling. You are a changeling.
Yeah, right. You're a changeling.
It's just like, what? What do you mean I'm a changeling? It's like, yeah, you're not like a real person. Basically.
Yeah. It seems like.
She just said it so nonchalant.
Yeah, seriously, yeah. The other girls actively dislike Tara, right? Tara doesn't know how to read a room, and she's like she's begging in the early episodes for the other girls to even like want to speak to her, like Musa, who, we get it, you know, she's sensitive because she's an empath, but like it seems like Musa doesn't even want to be there half the time. And then you have Stella, who is just so cruel and so needy, and to the point where we find out that she blinded someone just for talking to her boyfriend. Like, okay, so where's the friendship, right? Even when they go out to, like, say, find Stella's ring, right? Where's, like, the sense of camaraderie that they go through? No, they don't. Some of them go begrudgingly. Bloom goes off by herself. Where's the sense of friendship between them that they develop?
I think the sense of friendship is there. It
happens later on. It definitely, it does. You see it by episode 4, 5, and 6, especially Stella's character that does reveal the thing that happened with Ricky, how she blinded Ricky, what happened with that, the pressure that, and even it seems like the emotional abuse and maybe physical abuse that her mother, the queen, has placed on her to make her strong. I'm doing this because I love you and I want you to be strong. And probably I don't even love you, but I need to make sure that my legacy continues with you, and that legacy must be of strength.
Right,
and that's the pressure that Stella is
the throne
is dealing with.
You guys are a lot more patient because I don't know if I'm going to watch 3 episodes that are almost an hour in length.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I feel like these characters are just like, not only are they selfish and annoying and overbearing and just overall badly written show, I'm not going to continue.
Yeah, I mean,
personally,
right.
Can we talk about what we did like? Did we like anything?
I mean, I just like I think the special effects were probably
I like
and maybe the setting I think was nice.
Yeah, no, I like the potential that this show has.
No.
I do.
Don't see it.
Sorry, not me.
Okay. So I like the potential, but and I know you guys just talked about the supporting characters, but I actually did enjoy the supporting cast. Aisha's character, Tara, Musa.
But did you,
I saw like the development of things there. I feel like there wasn't enough time to give. It was only 6 episodes, but I did see the potential in that.
6 episodes, but Nicole pointed out, rightfully so, they are an hour long each. Okay. That's 6 hours of content.
Because I think the problem is they were focusing on the wrong thing, which is the Bloom character and the Sky character.
There you go. You nailed it in the head. Okay? Agreed.
Sky, what a effing waste.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah,
waste.
Definitely. This whole love triangle,
which doesn't even exist. So there is no chemistry between these two characters.
No chemistry.
It's not just, it was a love triangle. Yeah, the chemistry was the other thing.
Okay.
That was awful of the show. I will say this in terms of the Winx Club, the original one. Yeah, these characters end up together, but it's not like him courting her. It's her making the decision. I choose you. I'm actively going to pursue you. And she ends up becoming more so the one who calls the shots. Here, it's kind of like this like back and forth dance. I'm with her, but no, I want to be with her. You know, he's with Stella, but I want to be with her. And I was every time they were.
I was more excited.
I
was more excited with scenes dealing with Musa, right? Musa and Sam, Tara's brother.
Right.
When those two started getting together, I was just like, this is what I'm interested in. I'm like interested in what's going on here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought it was too many hormones, but it's also a show for kids. So, not kids, teens and tweens.
Teens, I think, yeah. It's just interesting that you guys saw so much potential because I didn't think that there was...
you guys.
These characters. Well,
me.
Eddie saw so much potential.
Yes.
Because for me, I didn't even think there was space for that, right? I couldn't even really find it, you know? And it was something that I was looking for because every time... I'm going to focus on Aisha because I really felt like every time she was there, it was not only she was second fiddle, but it was like a one note, right? Who was just kind of like being like this good kid who is trying to keep Bloom on a leash. And then she did feel like a buzzkill, even though I hate Bloom. It was also like, oh, well, you don't want to go along for the adventure or whatever is supposed to happen. So it was like I couldn't even build anything towards her because she was just written so flat.
Right.
So I wish I could see potential, but I feel like it wasn't even there for me to try and grab at.
Yeah, I look, you only saw 3.5 episodes. I don't fault you for that, only because like I think in this media landscape, if I guess in 2021, just because you drop the entire series does not entitle you to thinking I'm going to watch the whole thing.
Oh, 100%.
Right?
Not when you have so many options.
That used to be the thing back in the day, like when Netflix first started dropping series. That's no longer the case anymore, because if you can't make a compelling argument for me to finish you as a season, there's just no reason to, right?
Yep.
I might be home all the time, but my time is still precious to me.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess that's all I would have to say to that. In terms of the potential, so I don't know. Like I think for me, one of the big issues with the show overall is kind of this idea of like saving the world. And you guys were complaining about The Chosen One, right? Where Winx itself doesn't have that, at least the first season. Winx is just about like, yeah, there's a rivalry going on with another school. Here, this is like kind of like, there's like a big conspiracy going on, right? That Bloom herself is going to get herself caught up in the middle of. I think part of the problem that I have with this show is that if you don't have the budget to commit to some of those storylines, like when you're gonna have like a big, almost like a big, remember the big showdown in Hogwarts where all the bad guys were coming at the end, and it's like a big epic fight scene. Like they were preparing me for a scene like that, and it's like the biggest like nothing burger, like nothing happens. And really? I get it. It's not the show's fault that it doesn't have a big budget, but you know what? As creators, you're supposed to work around that budget. All right. Don't tell me this grandiose story of The Chosen One. You can tell me a story that takes place in this world that focuses on these 5 girls becoming friends. And it does not have to be end of the world. It doesn't have to be I'm going to take over the school. It doesn't have to be some lady named Rosalind like calling the shots from a blue wall. You know what I mean? The show tries to do a lot and it tries to be cool, but like again, like when we talked about with Animaniacs, it doesn't understand what made the original so successful in the eyes of the fans. And that was my spiel. That was a long one. I'm sorry, guys. But
well, it's talking about the eyes of the fan. Now would be a good time for us to actually hear from Ella herself, one of the biggest fans of Winx.
Correct. Let's take a listen real quick to actually some of the actual thoughts from Ella, and then we're going to drop her full episode on Monday, guys. So keep an ear out for that if you guys really want to get the inside scoop of someone who is a diehard Winx Club fan, because they're out there, guys. They are.
For sure.
So, hey, everyone. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Ella Anders. She is a writer, and she is also one of the biggest Winx fans. And she's going to help us fill in a lot of those gaps that me and Nicole have regarding this property, because we saw only one season of Winx combined and, only Fate of Winx Saga. So she's going to help us fill in the gaps. So, Ella, thank you for being here. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Ella Anders. I am a writer over at BSCKids and Social Focus, as well as I still am involved in fan fiction. I'm also writing original YA middle school grade novels work as well. My involvement for Winx Club actually goes back 16 of the 17 years of the brand. I fell into the series in 2015, and right around 12 years ago, I started getting into the fandom through fan fiction, which I do continue sporadically. I did for many years run the Winx Club fan site, Winx for Life. During that duration of time, I was also a staff member on the official Winx Club English-speaking fanzine that was published on the original Winx Club website. I got to beta test a few games for the series as well, and Molly Quinn, who starred in Castle, actually used my fan site to announce her role as Bloom in the Nickelodeon dub of Winx, and I had the honor of actually getting to interview her, and I also got to speak a bit with Liz Gillies about her role as Daphne in that dub as well.
Very, very nice. So it goes without saying then, well, would you be okay calling yourself an expert? Like, are you okay with that?
There's a couple people I do know personally that know a lot more and have had more hands-on with it, but of the people that are still around and active, I probably have the most. There's still a lot of people from those days when we had the fan sites that know more than I do, just because of different experiences.
Yeah, and I was looking at your Twitter and your Instagram, and you have this word, authoress, which I love. Is that like a new word? Is that like just a word that I just never heard of? What's the deal there?
There's a couple other people I know that use the term. It's just a different way to say author, and more magical girlesque, because authoress is Winx is kind of my branding.
Yeah. No, I heard that term. Well, I saw that term, and I loved it. I think it does sound magical, Yeah, so the reason I asked you to join us on the show, and thank you again, is because Nicole and I, we didn't grow up with this show. And when did this show just start airing in the U.S.?
2004 is when it first aired. It debuted in Italy in January, and it came stateside around September on the Fox block that I believe was on CW. I caught it on the CW block when that transferred that following year.
I thought it was Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon did, but that's a little later in the timeline. There's been 4 different English dubs. So many different actresses have stepped up into the mic to voice the characters we know today. So there's a lot to the history.
So when I was doing my research on this show, I was really surprised to learn that this show is very, very well regarded when it comes to portraying gender norms, or at least breaking them, right? And I didn't grow up with this show, right? I thought it was sexist. I thought it was going to be just a show about the male gaze. These girls are dressed up like Pop-Tarts, so I figured what value could this show possibly have? But then, as I'm watching it, I'm surprised to see that this is a show that's very, very much about friendship, and you pointed that out in your article.
Yeah.
I don't know, what kind of, do you think this show itself has like a feminist message? What do you think?
Right. Obviously, when I first got into Winx, I was towards the end of the demographic of what they were skewing for. And I was the girl who watched Darkwing Duck, DuckTales, Buzz Lightyear, Star Command. I liked the action shows, and this was something I wouldn't gear towards, but I got invested in. And that honestly would say a lot right there. You have someone who likes more of the action, more male-dominated shows be drawn into this, and then the entire magical girl genre is a side effect. Honestly, the fashion, I feel like a lot of it was drawn from the era it was. I know as the series progressed, Rainbow did collaborate with actual fashion designers to design outfits they wore in the series. And again, it was based on Italy, it was based on Italian and European norms and trends as well, which would be foreign naturally to North American fans because obviously cultural norms.
Right, yeah. So do you think that they were modeling these girls after I guess like Milan fashion models, right? Because Italy is one of the fashion capitals of the world. So I don't know. What do you think?
Right. We don't know. That's the thing about Rainbow is they aren't very transparent. They'll tell you something, but they won't tell you everything. A lot of the time, like even now, we don't see them really engaging much on social media. So we really don't know necessarily what's going on until it comes to light and everyone starts piecing it together based on what we know. So we honestly don't have to say, oh, it was this designer who did it. It's just not something we have access to, and they've never publicly stated, so unfortunately I can't cite that. But as for the feminist, it was just an idea of we can do what you can do, and we can do it in heels, basically, is the big takeaway I got as a kid. Obviously now, looking back on it, it was at a time when we were starting to see more female characters stand up and take control of the situation of fight. This was the era of Totally Spies, Kim Possible. We were seeing this starting to develop, and we were seeing the girls be the hero and the guys be more support, but be there all the way too.
All right, and that takes us to Fate, a Winx Saga. I actually think I have a lot more here that I could bounce off with you because I saw this show like 1.5 times. my husband was watching it first, and then I caught a lot of it with him, and then I rewatched some of it for the podcast just to see if I just missed anything. And all right, so as a fan, what were your initial reactions to Fate, a Winx Saga?
I feel like I mentioned this in my article, but I feel like I have to throw this up just for transparency. I did see leaks before they started filming, so I was aware of the direction they were taking.
Mm-hmm.
Although in interviews they say edgy, dark. That's up for interpretation. What I can think is edgy and dark is not what you're going to think is edgy and dark.
Absolutely.
So I was aware of the direction they were doing, and all I could think was, oh, someone help us. My overall interpretation was, I don't know if you've seen this, the Gem and the Holograms live action film that came out like 2005.
No, I never saw it. My husband is a fan, though, of the show. But no, I've never seen it. But he also did not want to see Gem and the Holograms because we saw the trailer and it was very much like, what? This is not Gem and the Holograms,
right?
You know?
So basically, because this does make a valid point for my argument, so I'm going to quickly recon this. Obviously, Gem and the Holograms, huge cult following series from the 80s. Rightfully so. It's fantastic. If you have the chance to watch it and you want something campy, go for it. But basically, they did a live action film for it. It was Gem and the Holograms in name only, and they just threw in plot points like, oh, synergy and the Gemstar earrings. It wasn't Gem. Nothing about it was Gem except the names and like a handful of things. It was just a way to get it produced. And as I've heard so many other people use this argument for Fate, was this the case? Because it didn't feel like Winx. There's a way to make it modern and mature, but keep the heart and integrity of the series alive. There is. A good writer can do this. But obviously we don't have that, and that's not the direction we were going with. So much of it, as someone else I've seen pointed out, is based on the Celtic lore. Oh, and if you were going to do this, why would you put an Italian series with Celtic lore? Unless it was slapped on.
Great point.
Because it just doesn't equate. Why would you do something that's very Italian with something very Celtic? It doesn't mesh.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, I didn't think about that. But, okay, so this actually brings up a good point. This is executive versus creator, right? Creator wanted to create a live-action series. Netflix is involved. And this is a Netflix original.
Yes.
And my fear is that what we're seeing happen here is something that's going to happen with another Netflix show that is in the works, Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Oh, I know all about that.
My fear is how is Netflix going to handle it now that the creators stepped down. But anyway.
Horribly. I'll tell you that now.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. No, this is true. But I'm not going to say that all Netflix shows are terrible. But, one that comes to mind is Babysitter's Club. I think that was a great adaptation that really did justice to the source material. But that was the exception, not the rule. But yeah, watching this, it just made me realize that this is exactly what's going on. It's executives not understanding the fan base or going with the trends. And the trend here is
Riverdale, Sabrina.
And I actually like Riverdale. I think Riverdale is such a bad show, but they know it's a bad show. I think that's what makes it so. It's campy. It's a campy show. And that's what makes Riverdale work. That does not translate well to everything else. Sabrina also comes to mind, right? Where Sabrina, the first season, was actually pretty good. It wasn't bad. It was, but it was a very, very structured story about one girl dealing with the fact that she's a part of two worlds. And it wasn't about her trying to save the world. It was about her balancing the world. And I think that's where the series kind of loses itself when it tries to make these bigger stories than they really should be. And this is where I think this show loses steam for me, right? This is a show centered around like these 5 girls learning magic at a magical college, and they're only being taught by 3 teachers. It loses the illusion and stuff, and it's just like I don't know. I don't know. No, those are my thoughts and stuff. I'm just rambling now. So, what do you think?
I hate this was supposed to be for the older fans 18 to 25. You know this. You probably still remember the people who, was in your fandom. Some of them still have their same accounts active. Why don't you look at them? Why aren't you listening to your fans? If you are truly doing something for your fans' sake, why are you not seeking them out? Why are you not watching them? That's my argument. Rainbow, we knew, watched the fan sites and the YouTube channels, during the time when they really did care, when season 4 was around, they knew. We knew they looked at our sites. It was a known fact. You still know these people. Some of the sites are still up. Why aren't you watching those people and watching their trends and seeing what they're going for and figuring out how can we do something in our vein to make it appeal to these people? They know their demographic. Common? You can't use that argument they don't know.
Sorry. Is that something common where the studio will be spying on the fandom?
Not to my knowledge, really. So much of it stems from one of my dear friends, Michael, who ran Michael's Winx Club. And the site has been closed, and he was basically the father figure of our fandom, the English speaking. He knew everything. He went to the Licensing Branding Expo, and he talked with Rainbow, and he met a Genius Drop, and he did so many things with them hands-on, and he got to know things before anyone else, and he got to break the news. Because of his site, and, he knew Rainbow looked at his site because, they were in communication. All of us, we were in communication with him, and we all shared news, and we were linked on his page with our accounts and our sites. I mean, we knew they looked at us, and they knew who we were. And to be invited on the fanzine like I was, I knew they knew who I was.
Yeah, so that has to make the sting of this show even worse, right? So that was a preview of the interview I had with Ella. We're gonna drop the full interview as a bonus episode on Monday, so keep your ears out for that. I think she labeled herself an authoress, right? Because she writes. Huh. I love that term, right? Isn't that cool?
That's a great term.
And she has a perspective of someone who does writing, fan fiction writing. But you know what? That's still writing in my book.
Yeah. Writing is writing. Come on.
Absolutely. So keep an ear out for her full episode, for her full interview. We're gonna drop that on Monday. And I don't know. Well, what do you guys think? Are you guys part of the people that made Fate a Winx Saga the #1 show on Netflix? And if so, why? Tell us. Let us know.
Well, hey, just because they watched it didn't mean they liked it.
But they still made it #1.
It's #1. This is true. But we want to hear your thoughts, right? So there's many ways you can reach out to us, and we encourage you to do so. Email us, remakesrebootsrevivals@gmail.com. Find us on Apple Podcast, rate, and write us a review. Remakes, Reboots, Revivals. We are on Instagram at Remakes, Reboots, Revivals. Facebook, facebook.com/Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals. Twitter at Remakes Podcast. In addition, we have a phone number that if you call, you can leave us a message and we can respond to and possibly even play it on the air. Rolando, can you get that number for them?
Yeah, call the Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals hotline. And that number is 862-248-2326. Give us a call. We want to hear from you guys.
Suggest an episode. Tell us your thoughts on a recent one. We want to hear from you.
We do.
And I think that's all she wrote. And be on the lookout for some new merch, guys, coming soon.
All right. Well, that's it on Winx. Are we ready to leave Alfea? Did we graduate?
Please.
We're graduating, guys. I'm going to play the dun, 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 dun.
Okay.
I'm just saying. All right. Well, anyway. Until next time,
stay original.